What's up, meatbags? It's the often imitated, never duplicated Tony TGD coming at you with a special little video. Now, Saturday night after the live stream got off the air, my phone started blowing up. I got a message from someone saying that they had insider knowledge as to some of the goings on at Intellivision. So, of course, I was very, very interested in this. Now, when people come to you with such claims, the first thing you do as a good journalist is you verify the source. So I verified that the individual was indeed the person they claimed it to be. Now, the second thing you gotta do is you gotta verify that the source actually has access to the information they're trying to give you. I was also able to verify that. So my source has been verified. Their access to information has been verified. And then I further vetted all the things they told me as best I could, going off of some of the other things I've been told from sources as well as publicly available information. Now, the source obviously wishes to remain anonymous, and in doing so, I have to sort of skirt around some of the things that were disclosed to me. Obviously, if I just repeat them as I was told, the individual in question would be outed. It'd be very easy to identify who this individual is, and we can't have that. We can't have sources be outed. That's not what we do here. So, ever since Saturday, ever since I've gotten my hands on this information, I've been parsing through it, looking over some other publicly available information, looking over some of my other notes from other sources, and I'm trying to put together a timeline of some things. And I think I'm ready. I think I got a clearer picture of what was going on this last year and the prior year, as far as why the Intellivision Amico has not come out yet, why it hasn't debuted, why it has not hit retail store shelves. Now, I will say that following commentary is going to be supposition based upon what I was told by this new source, based upon what I was told by the old sources, and based upon publicly available information. You should not take what I say as statements of fact. They are, in fact, just, like I said, supposition based upon information I have. Now, obviously, some of the things might not be exactly correct. I might throw out a number that's off by a little bit. Now, that does not discredit the overall message that I'm trying to deliver here. You see, I do believe the overall point that I'm going to make is accurate and reflects exactly what was going on. And like I said, maybe the nitty gritty details might not be 100%, but I do believe everything I'm about to tell you is more or less what has gone on. Now, we have to go way back to about January of last year. You know, I had an interview with Tommy Tellerico. He didn't really listen when I advised him as to how COVID was going to go down, how the lockdowns were going to come, go, be implemented, be re-implemented. You know, he wasn't really hearing that. He said, you know, nobody can really predict these things. Obviously, I could, because I did. And if you go back to that interview, you'll see I was pretty spot on as to how things were going to play out. But I guess Tommy either was unwilling to listen or he didn't want to believe it because he wanted to be optimistic. He wanted to, you know, believe that things were going to get better right away. And we're going to be out of it. There was going to be no global pandemic. But he didn't. And so in about February of last year, Tommy was shopping around, as you do for manufacturers, for people to get the console made, get it set out. Now, what I know is that he approached several different firms, you know, shopping around, trying to get the best deal. I know he was given some bombs that were around the 160, 170, mark. Obviously, that was not good enough. He thought, he can get a better deal. I do know that he was at least offered a few opportunities where they would manufacture and take care of everything, but I believe that Tommy was under the impression that he could get a better deal if he sourced the parts for himself, just didn't leave it up to the manufacturers, did it all himself. And he was probably correct for the most part. Had he the experience of someone building a console before, had he planned for the pandemic, he might have pulled this off, got a good deal, got a really cheap bomb, his bill of materials. But that's not what happened. What ended up happening is GameStop, Walmart's, all those places, they needed a commitment from Tom. They needed him to go ahead and give them figures, give them numbers. And now, if you've been following this story to any degree, you'll know that Tommy was on Atari Age bragging about how retailers love him. They love the product because they make more money off of an Amico than they would off of, say, a PlayStation or an Xbox. Now, we all laughed. We all thought this was funny. There's no way this is possible. Well, from various sources, I found that places like Best Buy get around 5% of, say, the new Xbox. Now, they can do this because they're getting about 40% off of, software sales that get sold in the store. And a lot of times when someone comes in to buy an Xbox, they're going to buy a couple of games. And Walmart's going to, Walmart, Best Buy, whatever, they're going to make out like bandits in the long run. Now, the Amico doesn't have that. The Amico doesn't have the amount of games coming out, the amount of physical media coming out, physical product, whatever you want to call it. So, it's my belief from the discussions I've had with various sources that they kind of had Tommy over a barrel. And so they are making more money off an Amico than they would off, say, an Xbox. But that's not because, Tommy's got such a great product or he's such a shrewd negotiator. No, it's because, like I said, they had him over a barrel, and they basically are getting about 15 to 20% markup on an Amico as opposed to the 5%, like I said, on the Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, and all that. So, Tommy commits. He sets his prices. He commits with his, retailers. Still hasn't committed with a manufacturer. And of course, we all know that things got worse. The global pandemic really started hitting their stride in about March, April. And of course, prices shot up way, way high. Shipping, manufacturing, parts. You had chip shortages, touch screen shortages, all kind of shit hit the fan. So, where Tommy could have had a bomb of about 160, 170, I'm hearing that he's now somewhere in the realm of above 200. So it's about $200 to make each Amico. Just to make it. That's not including shipping, marketing, and all that other good stuff. And of course, retailers are getting their cut. Now, you might be asking yourself, doesn't this really hurt the plan? The plan was, that they were going to make money up front. Well, again, I think this is not 100% accurate. While Tommy did say that he was making money off of each Amico, I think that he was actually only making money off of the manufacturing, the bomb versus how much they're selling it to, say, Walmart. He wasn't figuring in the marketing, the shipping, the labor, all that kind of things. He was just going off of the bill of materials versus how much he's selling them. And even then, from my understanding, he wasn't making out that much. It was going to be like, maybe 10 to $15, somewhere in that area per Amico. That was just on BOM compared to the price that they were selling it to the retailers. Now, when Tommy and them were shopping around for these manufacturers, they were also trying to raise money. You see, this $150 million line of credit, that's the reason they've gone with ARC, from my understanding, because they really desperately needed money to manufacture. See, it's my understanding that they were actually approaching various partners that they were doing business with, dealings with, to actually invest in the company. They were looking to raise some money, and they were willing to offer investments to people they were trying to do business with, basically. Could you imagine if you went into McDonald's and you were looking to buy some food from them, for a catering gig, and then when you're there, you're like, why don't you invest in the company that you're catering for? It'd be a little tacky. But this is what I'm hearing that they were doing, because they really, like I said, they were desperate, in need of money in order to manufacture. But, all the shit hit the fan, everything was going. It's also my understanding that the Amico itself was operational in some form. Now, they may have used the time between then and now to improve the UI, to improve graphics on games, to improve audio or whatever. But it's my understanding that at the very least, in February, March of last year, there was a functional Amico UI, a functional Amico game, a system, So they could have manufactured. Had they pulled the trigger, had they went with one of the companies that they were talking to, they could have started manufacturing as far back as last year in March, April. They could have had it on store shelves by October of that year. But like I said, they didn't. They thought that they could get better prices, better deals. Eventually this bit them in the ass, and we are where we're at now because of this inability to go ahead and pull the trigger. So now you might be asking yourself, what about that plan about making that money off of them Amigos? Well, again, from what I'm hearing, in these investment pitches that Tommy and company were doing, they were very clear that they were looking to make money long term off of software sales. Now, this actually makes a lot of sense when you start really digging into things. You got games being funded by German grants. So everything that they make off of that's pure profit. I mean, you're basically getting the German government to pay for a game to put on your system that you could then charge the public $10 a pop for. Sell 100,000 copies, you got $1 million right there. Free money. Do that until about 6 or 7 games. It's a nice chunk of change. That'll bankroll you a few more games. And again, I think that's why we got this whole upfront, development pitch, because they could offer, say, 150, 200,000, 250,000, whatever it is, to developers to take their game, port a game over to the Amico, and then, like I said, charge $10 a pop. They're predicting at least 100,000 sales. They made it back. With with interest. It's not a bad deal. Obviously, people like me who caught them porting mobile games, porting web flash games, probably put a little damper on their plans, probably put a little crinkle, if you will. They had to step up their game. You know, Evil Knievel probably was going to be ported directly. You know, they probably paid up front. We're just going to port it, slap on the multiplayer mode, and call it a day. But like I said, we pointed these things out, so they had to pump in some extra money, update the graphics, update the sound and everything, you know. That probably hurt them a little bit. And again, because they didn't manufacture anything, they didn't get the Amicos on the store shelves. Now all these developers that they've paid money to make games, to port games, to develop, you know, simple games for the system, you know, they haven't been able to sell any. So basically they just, for a whole year, they gave money away without no return on their investment. It's terrible business. Terrible. So, now, further highlighting just their inexperience, their whole, you know, software, not hardware guys. You know, clearly this whole physical media kerfuffle is probably made specifically because the retailers, they needed that little extra, you know, the little extra cheddar. So there was probably a deal worked out that they would create these cheap physical items to put on store shelves. So hopefully that, you know, your retailers can get that little bit of that 40% software sale money. Of course, you know, Tommy and them, they had to go the cheapest route because, you know, it wasn't really what they were planning. You know, they were planning at some point to have actual, legit, good physical product for consumers, but it didn't work out that way. This also goes back to the price hike. It's my understanding from parsing through all this information that the reason that, you know, Tommy was bragging, saying that they told him that his price was too cheap, he had to bring his price up because, you know, it had to be like a high-end electronic. But again, this goes back to what I was saying about, you know, Walmart and them wanting a bigger cut. Now, obviously, 40% of $150 is not as much as 40% of $250. See what I'm saying here? The higher the product was, the more they can mark it up. Until Tommy's credit, to his credit, you know, he did improve on the touchscreen. He improved on some of the little ins and outs. You know, trying to justify the price increase, trying to, you know, give the consumers not just, you know, take their wallets and, you know, treat them like ATMs. So to his credit, he did actually, you know, attempt to improve the system as best he could to get a higher price point so that Walmart and Best Buys and, you know, Amazons and all the fucking retailers, they could get their money and be happy with the deal. So, like I said, now we're in a situation where they're not making money on any of the Amicos. The only Amicos they're making money on at this point, from my understanding, would be the Founders Editions. It's also my understanding that my source said that they've heard through the grapevine that there's like a 95% chance that they're not shipping a single Amico this year. Not one. It's unfortunate. I mean, not being hardware savvy, not being someone who is used to dealing with these kind of people, it probably bit them in the ass. Now, let me see what else we got going on here. I'm trying to go through the notes, trying to make sure that I'm not leaving anything out, but also not saying too much. You know, I don't want to expose anybody. Talk Party, the rumored 6th pack-in game, was in fact working as far back as last year, from my understanding. So that's probably going to be announced eventually, that is, the 6th pack-in game, because it is functional, it is working, as far as I know. Cornhole is an interesting thing because, from my understanding, with the new bomb being over $200, being too expensive, way too pricey for Intellivision's taste, it's my understanding that they've been trying to swap a lot of components for cheaper ones. They want to still have a product that's as high quality as they can, but they also, anywhere they can save. If they could swap out a component that's just a little worse, but saves them a couple pennies here, a couple nickels there, whatever, they've been trying it. It's my understanding that that's why the FCC compliance is not done, because their swaps have not been working out. And this is probably why Cornhole does not work correctly, why they had to change it. It probably was working with the old controller specs, but having to go cheaper, there might have been something that they took out, something that they swapped that can't do what they needed to do, so they had to go with this new controller scheme. That's my understanding. Now, like I said, this is not a statement of fact. This is not me saying that this is definitive what it is. This is just what I've heard. This is just what I've been told. This is just, things that have been floated my way. Like I said, the numbers, they might not be 100%. They might be off by a little bit. But the overall message is basically, Intellivision Amico should be on the store shelves right now. We all should have played it. It should have been released last year, but the Intellivision team, being inexperienced, not predicting the global pandemic, not predicting what was going to happen, they didn't pull the trigger on manufacturing when they should have. They tried to wait, thinking they'd get a better deal. We had a pandemic. Prices went up. They probably waited more, hoping that they would come down. They never did. Then eventually they did have to pull the trigger. And they've been struggling for the last 6 or 7 months, trying to get that price down, trying to, swap out components, swap out things, make something happen so that they could not lose as much money on each Amico. Then, of course, when you start swapping things out, that introduces all kind of bugs with programming, bugs with the software. So now you got to make sure the software is working with the new hardware, with the changed hardware. A lot of headaches, a lot of problems, and this is why, we've seen things like the gyroscope not reacting properly, why there was a bug. This is most likely the reason for the little lag on the screen, the lag that we've seen. Like I said, the gyroscope not working properly, or at least appearing to. Probably battery issues are related to this as well. Hopefully, they're able to get some kind of funding, get some kind of investment into the company, pump some more money into them, so that there can be a release. But like I said, the way it's looking, there's going to be no release this year, from my understanding. They're not even going to set a release date. I mean, now you have to understand again that the information I was given was old information. It's not necessarily the latest, up to date. I was given this information on Saturday. Things could have changed already by then. Who knows? Maybe they found some angel investor. Maybe they got some kickbacks from sources or whatever. Maybe they got some investments. When I say kickbacks, I don't mean like, that they're stealing money or whatever. I mean like, someone has gave them money because they've invested or whatever. I just want to make that clear that I'm not insinuating any sort of illegal activity. And like I said, this is supposition. This is my understanding based on the information I was given. It should not be treated as fact. It should not be treated as me making any sort of statements. And that's basically it. That's all I got for now. I'm still in ongoing discussions with various sources. I will update you all as I learn new things. I will update you all as new news breaks. As you can see, I've tried to be more low-key with this video. I want to make sure that everyone understands this is a serious discussion. This is not me trying to make things up. This is me trying to be as straightforward with you guys as possible. This is me trying to deliver news, deliver accurate information as best as I can, to the best of my knowledge, so that way you can make informed decisions about your product consumption. But that's all I gotta say about that. You know how we do it on this channel. Love, peace, booty grease. I'm out this bitch.